He adjusted the curtains, just slightly. Not too much, just enough for the light to fall across the kitchen counter the same way it did yesterday. He didn't think about it. His hand moved on its own. The coffee machine clicked on. 7:43 a.m. Right on time. Steam rose slowly into the quiet kitchen. He stood there watching it, not checking his phone, not thinking about the day. Just standing. There was a time when silence made him uncomfortable. He used to fill it with noise, with movement, with something. Now he didn't. He caught his reflection in the dark surface of the machine, held it there for a second longer than usual. Something felt unfamiliar. Not wrong, not broken, just distant, like looking at someone he knew but didn't really recognize anymore. He blinked, picked up the cup, took a sip. Same taste, exactly the same as yesterday. He placed it down, carefully, precisely. Everything in his life worked. Everything he built functioned exactly the way it was supposed to. So why did it feel like something had already ended? He had built his life step by step, carefully. A stable job, a stable income, a stable home, a life without unnecessary risks. 47 years old, a senior position in a company that relied on him, a house in a quiet neighborhood where nothing unexpected ever happened, a wife who no longer argued, a son who didn't ask questions anymore. Everything was in place. Nothing was falling apart. From the outside, it looked right. People would say, he figured it out. And for a long time, he believed that too. There was a time when life didn't feel like this, when things weren't so defined, when conversations didn't need a conclusion, when moments didn't need a purpose. He remembered that life, not clearly, but enough to know it existed. He didn't lose it all at once. He moved away from it, slowly, one decision at a time. It started small, turning down something uncertain, choosing the safer option, avoiding situations that felt complicated. He didn't call it fear, he called it clarity. Why risk something when the outcome wasn't guaranteed? Why invest in something that might not matter? It made sense, and it worked. Life became easier, cleaner, more predictable. He didn't have to deal with chaos, so he removed it, not all at once, just gradually. He stopped having conversations that didn't lead anywhere, stopped staying in moments that didn't produce something, stopped allowing emotions that didn't serve a purpose. At first it felt like progress, like he was improving. People noticed. You've changed, in a good way. You're more focused now. He didn't argue. At work, nothing slipped. He didn't hesitate. He didn't second guess. When something needed to be decided, he decided. When something needed to be removed, he removed it. Even when it wasn't easy, he walked into the meeting room early, room, same table. He placed his laptop in the same spot. One by one, people came in, same seats. Every time, someone adjusted their chair. Someone checked their phone. The meeting started. We need to look at this again. He already knew what it meant. He listened, waited, then spoke. Calm, clear, exactly what they needed. They nodded. Yeah, that works. He closed his laptop. Meeting over. Same as always. Dinner was already on the table. Same plates, same arrangement. His wife sat across from him, his son beside her. He sat down. No one spoke. He picked up his fork. The sound was small, but loud in the silence. How was school, he asked. Fine. Anything new? No. Same answers. Every night. His wife shifted slightly, like she wanted to say something, then didn't. He noticed, but didn't ask. He took another bite. The silence stayed. Not uncomfortable, just expected. Morning, curtains, coffee, light, again, work, same meeting, same words, again, dinner, same table, same silence, again, days blurred, morning, work, dinner, sleep, again, faster, shorter, less detail, until everything felt like one continuous moment. One night he stood in front of the mirror. The light above it was harsh, too clear. He looked at himself, longer than usual. He tried something, a small reaction, raised his eyebrows, tilted his head. Nothing changed. It didn't feel different. He stopped, and that's when it hit him. He wasn't reacting anymore. He was performing. Everything he did felt correct, but not real, like he was following something already written. That night he sat alone. No TV, no phone, just silence. And for the first time, he didn't escape it. He let it stay. And slowly, something became clear. There was nothing wrong with his life, nothing broken, nothing missing. Everything was still there. And yet, none of it reached him, because he wasn't there. He removed everything unnecessary. And without realizing, he removed everything real. The next morning, everything was the same. Curtains, coffee, light. He stood there. But this time, he didn't adjust anything. He just watched. The light moving slowly across the counter. Upstairs, footsteps. He didn't call. For the first time, he didn't know what would happen next. And for the first time, he didn't need to. Nothing changed. But something had shifted. quietly. Everything still worked. Only now, he could see it. It sounded right. He began making decisions differently, not based on what felt interesting, based on what made sense. He chose stability over uncertainty, predictability over possibility. He stopped saying yes to things that didn't have a clear outcome, stopped spending time in places that didn't lead anywhere, stopped engaging with people who made things complicated. At the time, it didn't feel like loss. It felt like progress. Each decision made the next one easier. Each adjustment made life smoother, more manageable, until eventually, his life began to organize itself around what could be controlled, and what couldn't simply stopped being part of it. That was how it happened. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just gradually. A narrowing that felt like improvement, a quiet removal of anything that didn't fit the structure he was building. By the time he noticed anything missing, he had already built something that worked too well to question. Control didn't feel like restriction. That was why it was so easy to accept. It felt like relief. Like stepping into a version of life where nothing unnecessary could reach you. He started planning things further ahead, not just important things, everything. Weekends, dinners, routes, conversations. If he was driving somewhere, he checked traffic before leaving. If they were going away, he booked everything in advance. If a situation felt uncertain, he removed it. It became instinct, not something he thought about, something he trusted. At work, it made him valuable. He became the person people relied on when things became unclear, the one who could step into confusion and make it simple. He didn't overreact, didn't hesitate, didn't get stuck in possibilities. He reduced things, separated what mattered from what didn't, then acted. People noticed. He's steady. He doesn't overcomplicate things. I wish I could stay that calm. He heard those things, and he believed them. Calm, that was what it looked like from the outside. Not absence, not distance, just control. He began expecting the same clarity in other parts of his life. When his wife spoke in a way that didn't lead anywhere, he tried to bring it back. When his son asked questions that didn't have clear answers, he redirected them, not because he didn't care, because he didn't see the value in staying there, in uncertainty, in open-ended things. Over time, he stopped noticing he was doing it. It became part of him, a way of moving through everything, reducing, clarifying, closing, until there was almost nothing left that couldn't be resolved quickly, and nothing left that required him to stay. The change in his marriage didn't arrive as a problem. That would have been easier to see. It arrived as something quieter, a thinning, something slowly becoming less without ever disappearing completely. His wife used to speak differently, not in full thoughts, in fragments, in feelings that didn't always make sense at first. I don't know why, but something feels strange today. He would ask strange how. She would pause, try to explain. Sometimes she couldn't. And when she couldn't, he would move on. You're probably just tired. It's been a long week. Don't overthink it. He thought he was helping, making things clearer. But some things aren't meant to be clarified. Some things are meant to be heard. He didn't understand that. So she changed, slowly. She still spoke, but not as much, not as freely. She began stopping in the middle of sentences, testing whether there was space for them. Sometimes there wasn't, and they ended there, unfinished, unnoticed. He saw the silence, but not what caused it. He didn't follow it, because following it meant staying somewhere without direction, and that was something he had already removed from his life. At some point, she stopped trying, not in a way that could be pointed to, just less talking, less asking, less opening, until what remained between them was something that still worked, but didn't reach, and because nothing broke, he never questioned it. His son's distance didn't arrive in a way that demanded attention. There was no moment he could point to, no argument, no sudden shift, just a slow change in how presence felt. At first it looked normal. Children grow, they become quieter, they spend more time alone. That was what he told himself. That was what it looked like from the outside. But distance has a texture, subtle, something you feel before you can explain it. When his son was younger, he used to ask questions without thinking, not practical ones. Not useful ones, just questions. Why do people act different when they're tired? Why does it feel weird when everything is okay? He used to answer them, or at least he thought he did. You think too much. You'll understand later. Focus on what matters. They weren't harsh answers, but they ended something, closed something, and over time, the questions stopped. Not all at once, just fewer, then simpler, then gone. By the time his son became a teenager, their conversations had narrowed into something predictable. How was school? Fine. You okay? Yeah. You need anything? No. It worked. Everything still functioned, but something wasn't there anymore. One night, his son came downstairs late. The house was quiet. He opened the fridge, looked inside for longer than necessary, then closed it. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Not really." There was a pause. His son leaned against the counter. "I don't know. Sometimes it just feels weird." He frowned slightly. "Weird how?" His son shrugged. "Like, nothing's wrong." Another pause. "But it still doesn't feel right." He had an answer ready. He always did. "You're just tired." His son nodded. "Yeah, maybe." Then he went back upstairs. The conversation ended. Cleanly, like everything else. But something about it stayed. Not the words, the pause before them. The way his son had looked at him. For just a moment, like he was waiting for something else. Something that didn't come, and slowly, those moments stopped appearing. Until even the possibility of them faded. Work was the one place where everything still made sense. Everything had a structure, a purpose, a direction. He knew what to do, and more importantly, he knew what not to feel. He arrived early, not because he had to, because he preferred it. The quiet before everything started, the space before people filled it with their thoughts, their concerns, their uncertainty. He sat at his desk, everything in place, nothing unnecessary, no distraction. He opened his laptop. The same way, same sequence, same posture. The day began. Emails, decisions, meetings. Everything moved smoothly, predictably, like a system that no longer needed adjustment. In the meeting room, nothing surprised him anymore. People spoke, but he already knew what they were going to say. Not the exact words, the shape of them, the hesitation, the uncertainty, the need for direction. And then, he listened, waited, spoke, clear, efficient, correct. They nodded. Yeah, that makes sense. It always made sense. That was the problem. Nothing required him to stay. Nothing required him to feel. As he stood up, someone laughed, a small laugh, unplanned, uncontrolled. For a second, it felt out of place, like something that didn't belong in that room anymore. He looked at them and realized he hadn't laughed like that in a long time. Not because he couldn't, because nothing reached that part of him anymore. The realization passed quickly, like everything else, but it left something behind, a quiet question he didn't follow. At home, the pattern repeated. Dinner, same table, same light, same questions. How was school? Fine. How was your day? Busy. Silence, not uncomfortable, just empty. At first, he didn't notice it. It was just routine, something stable, something that meant nothing was wrong. But then, he started noticing the repetition, not in a big way, in details. The way his wife moved her hand before speaking, the way his son avoided looking up, the way every conversation ended before it began. It wasn't just similar, it was the same, again, and again, and again. He began to feel like he was watching it happen, not inside it, slightly outside. Like the moment was already finished before he experienced it, and he was just moving through it once he saw it. He couldn't stop seeing it. Morning, curtains, coffee, same light, same movement. Work, meeting, voices, same outcome, same resolution. Dinner, silence, same words, same ending, again, again, again. The repetition stopped feeling like stability and started feeling like something else, something closed, something that didn't allow anything new to enter. He noticed how nothing interrupted it anymore. No unexpected moment, no real shift, no disruption. Everything fit too well. One morning, he stood in the kitchen and didn't move. For a second, everything continued without him. The machine hummed, the light shifted, the clock moved forward. Nothing needed him. Nothing changed because he stopped, and for a brief moment, he felt something unfamiliar, like he wasn't living his life, just entering it. That night, he stood in front of the mirror. The light was harsh, too clear, every detail visible. He looked at himself, longer than usual, then longer. He tried something, a reaction, raised his eyebrows, tilted his head. Nothing changed. He tried to remember something, a moment that felt real, something that stayed. He waited. Nothing came. He stayed there, waiting longer than necessary. Still nothing. Then it became clear, not suddenly, quietly. It wasn't that his life had become empty. It was that he had become someone who could no longer feel it. There was nothing wrong with his life, nothing broken, nothing missing. Everything was still there, and that was what made it impossible to ignore, because if everything was still there, then the problem wasn't his life. It was him. He didn't lose his life. He just became someone who couldn't feel it anymore. Not suddenly. Slowly. One decision at a time. until nothing inside him could interrupt the pattern he had built, until nothing inside him could be reached, not even by the people sitting across from him, not even by himself. The next morning, everything was the same. Curtains, coffee, light. He stood there. His hand moved, then stopped. He let the light fall differently, just a little, barely noticeable, but enough. He watched it, for a moment longer than usual, upstairs. Footsteps. He didn't predict them. He just listened. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't need to know what came next. Nothing changed. But something had shifted. Quietly. Not fixed. Not better. Just seen. He stood in the light a little longer. Not because something had changed, but because he could see that it hadn't. And that felt different. Not better. Just harder to ignore. He took a slow sip of coffee. Same taste. But this time, he noticed it.